bold journalism.
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
Exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological.
Finding the truth.
And use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, thought criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I'm your host, Drew Hernandez. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with the great Larry Elder. We talk BLM, yay, and some of his future political agendas and goals. Enjoy. And we are back with the blackface of white supremacy with part 2 with the great Larry Elder. My brother, man, this is it's an honor to have you here on the show.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And I just want to get straight into it. What's your take on Black Lives Matter? Where are we with BLM? It's been clear that they've been exposed, exploiting and manipulating black people. I'm pretty sure you saw this coming a mile away. But where are we now?
I did. And Black Lives Matter started not because of the thing in Ferguson, Michael Brown, but because of the death of Trayvon Martin. He was shot and killed, as you know. And the guy that shot and killed him stood trial, was found not guilty. There were no blacks on the jury, but there was a black alternate who said that he would have also ruled not guilty. And the jurors who did speak publicly said race never came up. So the reason Black Lives Matter was started was based upon a lie. It got a lot of energy because of the death of Michael Brown. Michael Brown did not have his hands up, did not say don't shoot. The whole thing was a lie. The officer was completely exonerated. But because of Black Lives Matter, because of the death of George Floyd, there were 4 months worth of violent protests in the streets of America.
Riots.
At least 25 people were killed. About 2,000 officers were injured. About $2 billion in insured damage, and another probably $1 billion in uninsured damage, all because of a lie. George Floyd, however you think of him, however you think about the verdict, there's zero evidence that Derek Chauvin did what he did because George Floyd is black. The lead prosecutor was a black man, and he never argued that George Floyd was motivated, that Derek Chauvin was motivated because he was black. In fact, if you look at the opening statement, and I watched it, he took pains to say the police in general were not on trial. The Minneapolis police in general was not on trial. This individual named Derek Chauvin was on trial, and he never argued that he was motivated because of George Floyd's race, and Chauvin was never charged with a hate crime.
Zero evidence.
So the whole thing, all these protests in the streets, again, based on a lie. And one more time, the evidence, if anything, shows the police are more hesitant, more reluctant, Drew, to pull the trigger on a black person than a white person. It's been studied for decades. There is an economist named Roland Fryer, Harvard tenured professor. He's the youngest Harvard tenured professor in history. That's how brilliant he is. From the hood, from Baltimore. And he did a study to find out, to corroborate his assumption that the police were engaging in deadly force against blacks just because they're black. He was shocked with his findings. Got rid of all his research staff, hired another team. They came back with the same results. If anything, the police are more hesitant, more reluctant to kill a black person than a white person. There are more unarmed whites killed every year than unarmed blacks. A typical year, about 1,000 people are killed by the police, which is a tiny number when you look at the number of encounters the police have. The police has about 50 million encounters with individuals. 1,000 people are killed. 500 of them are white, 250 are black. Almost all of those resisted arrest, or resisted arrest with a weapon, or with a knife, with a gun, or resisted violently. When you get down to the number of the people who are killed, who are unarmed, that are questionable, you're talking about maybe a dozen, if that. And even those, because you're not armed, does not mean you're not dangerous. Michael Brown was unarmed, but he was dangerous. His DNA was found on the officer's gun. So just because you're unarmed does not mean you're not dangerous. So when you get down to, we're talking about a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the people who are killed every year, who are killed unarmed for reasons that you could argue are not justified. We should deal with these kinds of things on a case-by-case basis and drop this nonsense that the police are systemically racist.
It's a widespread
and the reason
thing,
is it's a problem is not just that it's not true. People believe a lot of things that are not true that don't have any real downside. If you're a young black man and you're pulled over and you've had this indoctrination that the police are going to do something to you because you're a young black person, you're not going to comply. When you don't comply, the odds of something bad happening go up astronomically. My father always told my brothers and me, when you get pulled over by the cop, make sure your left hand's at 10 o'clock, make sure your right hand's at 2 o'clock, say yes, sir, say no, sir, say yes, ma'am, say no, ma'am. My dad wasn't a biologist, but he could tell a man from a female. Make sure your paperwork is in order, and if you feel you're mistreated, get a badge number, and let's deal with it while we're both still alive. But a lot of young black men, often grown up without a father, no one's telling them this. They're listening to rap music. They're watching BLM. They're hearing people like Patrice Cullors talk about how systemically racist America is, and as a result, they're not complying. And so you have a whole bunch of things that happen that would not have happened had people simply complied. By the way, BLM, the co-founders are self-described trained Marxists, Patrice Cullors. Marx did not believe in capitalism. He did not believe in God. He wanted to dethrone God. So you're talking about the foundations of what allowed Black America to go forward, belief in God, belief in entrepreneurship, and they're refuting it. On their website, they even attack the nuclear family as a European construct. They're dangerous. And then we find out she bought a lot of property with the money.
Yeah.
So how are you a Marxist? Marxists didn't believe in private ownership of property, and you're buying mansions all over the place.
Well,
she's pimping people.
How are
it's
you?
a joke.
How are you a desperate, no opportunity, oppressed black female?
Right.
That's like the bottom of the list. They say, right? The black females are at the bottom of the list. They say that's CRT. How are you that when you are a multimillionaire getting book deals?
Yeah, I was gonna say $30 million deal with Hollywood.
Movies,
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Let me ask you this, Larry. Why? Okay, because anytime you talk to like a BLM activist or whatever, or at a college campus, and you're like, okay, well, Black Lives Matter. I can't tell you how many times I've had this encounter. Black Lives Matter. Well, what about the black genocide in the black female womb? No. BLM is only about police brutality.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Where the hell does that come from? Like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah,
if Black Lives Matter, why don't they matter across the board?
Yeah, they don't want to talk about abortion. They don't want to talk about the large percentage of babies that are aborted that are black. Probably one of the most powerful things I ever read against abortion was written in 1977. And it was about the moral problem, the argument that men don't want babies and that they don't have them was refuted. It was as compelling and thorough a takedown of abortion as I've ever seen. It was written by Jesse Jackson. 7 years later, Jackson ran for president, 1984, and suddenly he was pro-choice. I urge you to take a look at what he wrote in 1977 and then ask yourself, how do you write that and then 8 years later decide that you were wrong and that that abortion is not murder, it's not a sin, which is what he said. They don't want to talk about it. And someone once put it this way. He said, the reason I'm not in favor of abortion is because I'm not a racist, I'm not a sexist. How many George Washington Carvers, how many Martin Luther Kings, how many Barack Obamas did we lose as a result of that?
Pioneers, the society.
How many Madame Curies? Yeah. I'm thinking of the woman who was married to FDR, Roosevelt.
It's really devastating to think about.
That we've lost. How many great people have we lost because of abortion? And the left doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. You know, I've had
Eleanor Roosevelt.
There you go. I've had talks at like college campuses, and I always say the same thing. Like when I have like black or brown people in the audience, and I'm like, why are you guys regurgitating a talking point from some homicidal white woman,
right,
Margaret Sanger, that was saying, oh, the black people and the brown people, they're not going to have a financial future. They're just going to suffer, so they might as well die. How are we going to have any progress for the black community or the brown community if we are killing them and not even giving them the chance to live and move forward into the future?
Margaret Sanger gave a speech at the Women's Auxiliary of the KKK, where she made the same argument. And yet that organization was the primary organization from which Planned Parenthood grew.
She influenced the Nazis.
Yeah.
That's that again.
Eugenics, yeah.
It goes back down to the lack of information,
Right.
keeping these populations in ignorance, lack of knowing history
Right.
and understanding what really took place. And I think that, I mean, growing up Hispanic, like proud of your heritage, proud of your culture. Black culture is very similar as
Right,
well. Like
right.
knowing who you are, why we are where we are. Like I get all that, but it just blows my mind where we've gotten to this place where we've allowed these people to strip us of that as well. Okay, so speaking of culture, I
Yes.
wanted to ask you, where's our boy Ye at? What's your take on Ye? With everything he's been saying,
on Jesus or whatever.
whatever the hell.
No.
I don't know where he is right now.
You know, I'm not a rap music guy. I'm an old dude. I'm a Motown person, so he's not on my playlist. But obviously, he's a cultural figure,
Yeah.
and therefore you
Huge
can't
cultural
ignore
figure,
him.
yeah.
But I put him on my list when he referred to himself as a god years ago. He had a song called "I'm a God," and he gave an interview and he said, "I'm a god," and I thought he was joking. He goes, "No, I'm a god. I know I'm a god, and I'm not going to say I'm not a god. I'm a god. I'm done."
Yeah.
Let alone the stuff about anti-Semitism, let alone the stuff he said about Hitler. And I remember watching a recent interview he did with Tucker Carlson. I have a great deal of respect for Tucker. And I'm watching Tucker, and I could tell that the interview had been heavily edited because I know that you let Kanye West talk uninterrupted, he's going to say some brain dead, stupid, offensive stuff.
Yeah.
So I knew it was heavily edited. He's a moron. He's a wealthy guy. He's apparently a very popular entertainer. Again, I'm not into rap, but half of him is moronic, and he's not to be taken very seriously. What bothers me about the reaction to what he said and the reaction to Donald Trump having dinner with this guy, Nick Fuentes, is the lack of reaction to people like Ilhan Omar, who said that the reason people support Israel in Congress is because of the Benjamins, who said that she thought that people in Congress had dual loyalties to Israel and to America. She said on 9/11, quote, "some people did something," close quote. Another one of them, Ayanna Pressley, I think it is, she said she feels a certain kind of, I don't know, comfort that my people allowed the Jews to settle in the Middle East, referring to Palestinians. These are people who are elected officials, not entertainers, and they've said things that are offensive. The boycott, divest, sanction movement is anti-Semitic. Even Chuck Schumer called it anti-Semitic. Yet you've got members of the squad who support that, and no one says anything. When Ilhan Omar was reprimanded, there was a resolution condemning her, but not by name. They wouldn't put her name on it. So these are prominent, publicly elected officials who say and do things that are anti-Semitic. Al Sharpton, during the 1991 Crown Heights riots that one Jewish leader called the most serious pogrom in the history of America, was saying things like, "Tell the Jews to put their yarmulkes on, come over to my house, and we'll get it on." He's referred to Jews as diamond merchants. And Al Sharpton not only has a television show on MSNBC, Hee Haw, which is what I call it, he is also referred to as a kingmaker in the Democratic side. All these politicians, from Joe Biden to Elizabeth Warren, to all the ones who were running, went down to New York to kiss his ring to hopefully get his endorsement when they were running in 2020. I mean, this guy is not being roundly criticized as an anti-Semite, but Donald Trump has dinner with Kanye West, and Donald Trump is an anti-Semite, despite the fact that he did more for Jews and for Israel than any president in history. He moved the embassy from American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He did the Abraham Accords.
Literally named a region in the Golan Heights after him.
I was going to say, if Donald Trump ran for prime minister in Israel, he could get elected.
Yeah.
And he's an anti-Semite. His daughter is converted to Judaism. His son-in-law is an Orthodox Jew. Grow up. Now, I'm not saying he should have had dinner with him. It was foolish for him not to know who Nick Fuentes is. I didn't know who he was either until then, but I'm not president. I'm not in Mar-a-Lago. I have a staff of people vetting people, and he should have. But let's be consistent here. How about some outrage about Al Sharpton? How about some outrage about Barack Obama, who has a picture next to a smiling Louis Farrakhan, arguably America's biggest anti-Semite, when Obama was senator. And that picture did not come out until after Obama left office. And Alan Dershowitz said, had he known about that picture, he would not have voted for Obama in 2008 and in 2012. Nobody says a word. How do you take a picture with a smiling David Duke? That's essentially what he did. A black David Duke, and there Obama is smiling, and they're both smiling. Nobody says squat. There's a picture of Louis Farrakhan embracing Al Sharpton. Nobody says squat. But Donald Trump has dinner with Kanye West, and oh my God, Donald Trump's an anti-Semite. It's just insulting. It's infuriating.
It's the same thing, just taking a minority or taking a group of people and manipulating in the media that, oh, they're the victim, they're this, and they blow it out of proportion, but they only talk about it when it's their political opponent, and it's going to score them some political points. Because, I mean, you even bring up the nuclear Iran deal. Like, and all of the left supporting that, sending like billions of dollars to Iran that is routinely calling for the death of America and death to Israel, supports terrorist organizations like Hezbollah.
And
where are they on that?
And breaking,
is that not anti-Semitic?
And breaking the Iran deal already.
Yes.
They're still enriching uranium, and the Biden administration wants to get back into the Iran deal. It's insane.
It's literally insanity. You know, like Candace Owens talks a lot about like the black community getting emotionally manipulated a lot. Do you think that's really like a male, black female thing? Do you think there's truth to that? Do you think that we see that a lot? Like when, because I mean, you see the left really push those buttons very effectively.
Well, of course.
They use the emotional argument. It's never facts. It's just, we made you feel a certain way. Be outraged.
No, Candace is right. Black people are being manipulated. They're pushing emotion. And when you are ill-informed, it is easier for people to do that to you. By that, I'm talking about our educational system, K through 12. Something like half of black eighth graders cannot read at proficiency levels, which means half of black 13-year-olds are almost functionally illiterate. And when you are functionally illiterate, somebody can say anything to you and you can be manipulated. There are 13 public high schools in Baltimore, 13, where 0% of the kids are math proficient. And there's another half dozen where only 1% is. That's almost half of the public high schools in Baltimore where either the kids are 0% efficient or only 1%, and they're all in the inner city. When you are that ill-informed, you can be manipulated and are being manipulated.
I think that makes total sense because you could see it. And these propagandists in the media, they clearly push those buttons. They know exactly how to trigger people to get them to do what they want them to do. Obviously, you're the black face of white supremacy, and that came out of when you were running for governor in California. Where are you right now? What's next for you? What do you have do you have any plans for the future? Where's Larry Elder right now?
Only because you brought it up, Drew. I'm thinking about running for president.
Wow.
No kidding. I got
2024.
2024. I got 3.5 million votes when I ran for governor. It was a two-step deal, as you know. The first part is 50% plus one had to vote to recall Gavin Newsom. Had he been recalled, whoever got the most votes on the replacement side would have become governor. There were 46 candidates on the replacement side. I got more votes than almost all of the other 45 combined. I got 3.5 million, 49% of all the votes. The next highest person got 9%. I got more votes than did the person who ran against Gavin Newsom the first time in 2018, who also ran in the recall. I got more than Caitlyn Jenner. I got more than a guy named Doug Osee, who was a former congressman. The person that the Republican establishment in California wanted was a guy named Kevin Faulconer, two-term mayor of San Diego. I carried his county by 30 points. So it was an extraordinary race. I raised $22 million in 7.5 weeks. And I got into it late, 7.5 weeks left. I did 100 events. By that I mean either a print interview, a radio interview, or a TV interview, or a fundraiser, or a rally. And 150,000 individuals donated to my campaign. Half of them were outside of California. So the race is over. My girlfriend and I go to Key West. I always wanted to go to Key West because I wanted to see where Hemingway wrote all his books. And one of the reasons I gained 15 pounds and haven't been able to lose it is because everybody kept buying me drinks and buying me meals. Hey, I voted for you. I gave you money. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? Why don't you run for president? And little by little, the more I thought about it, the more I said, you know, it would be easier for me for president and get elected than to run for governor in California, because in California there has not been a Republican statewide elected since 2006. There isn't a single statewide office in California held by a Republican. So I'm thinking about it. I've gone to Iowa the last month 4 or 5 times, which is the first contest. I've gone to New Hampshire, which is the first primary, and I'm talking to people and I'm giving it some thought. If I decide to do it, I'll make an announcement sometime probably in March.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this then. What are your top 3 issues? If you're going to run for the president of the United States, what are your top 3 issues?
Well, the first one, of course, is the economy. Second one is family. As you and I have been talking about this earlier in the interview. The number one problem facing America is not inflation, although that's a problem, not gas prices, although that's a problem, not crime, although that's obviously a problem. The number one problem is the large number of kids who enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the third issue is to debunk this nonsensical notion that America is systemically racist. I think I can do that in a more authentic and persuasive way than some of my other rivals can. So those would be my top issues. The economy, family, and America is the land of the free, home of the brave. Don't let these idiots undermine your confidence and your sense of self-worth, and you'll be just fine if you follow the steps that I mentioned. Work hard, get an education, don't have a kid until you get married first, avoid the criminal justice system, get a job, keep a job, you'll be just fine. That's what I'm going to be talking about.
If we're in a right-wing primary with Larry Elder and you got former President Trump on stage, how do you envision that going?
Well, it'll go fine.
I'm genuinely curious.
It'll go fine. I did not say a single negative thing about any of my Republican rivals when I ran for governor. They did not return the favor, but I didn't. Because it's not about me. It's about the country. And someone once asked me, what are you going to say when Donald Trump comes up with a nickname for you? I said, I'll be flattered. It means I'm on the radar. I'm not going to say anything about it. I thought he did a great job for the country. I did a great job on the economy, best economy ever. Did a great job on borders, most secure border ever. I love the judges that were confirmed. I love what he did with foreign policy. I can go on and on about the things that he did. We're energy independent. He did a great job against tremendous hostility from the media, from even within his own party.
Global powers.
Yes.
China.
So he did a great job. But I'd say about 35% of the country hates his guts in a pathological way. He ought to develop a vaccine for that. And it's a hurdle for him. January 6th is a hurdle for him. I don't believe he orchestrated an insurrection, but much of the country does believe that. This whole term election denier is an albatross. I don't know whether or not he's going to be able to overcome that. And Drew, after he got elected in 2016, I said on my radio show the next day, it's going to be very difficult for him to get reelected. One, the left is going to have plenty of money because if he does what he says he's going to do, the economy is going to be rocking and rolling. Number two, they hate his guts in a way that I've never seen before. I thought they hated Richard Nixon. I thought they hated Ronald Reagan. I thought they hated George W. Bush because of the Iraq War. This is on a whole nother level I've never seen before. Yeah. And thirdly, they're not going to underestimate him. Remember, Hillary didn't set foot in Wisconsin because she thought there was a blue wall. So I thought it was going to be very difficult for him to get reelected. And he didn't, for all the reasons I just now mentioned.
Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The black face of white supremacy is going to be running for the president of the United States.
I'm thinking about it. I haven't made an announcement yet.
We will see. We'll see.
We'll see.
I think I've been saying this. 2024 is going to be insane, ladies and gentlemen. Larry Elder, where can people follow you and watch your great show?
You can watch my documentary on UncleTom.com. I've done 2 parts, Uncle Tom 1, Uncle Tom 2. I am also on Epic Time, LarryWithEpic.com. And follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and check me out on Instagram, on IG.
There you have it. Larry Elder.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Front Lines. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We must play offense. Game on.
You expect the rest of the world to live in La La Land. We're not.
We've been saying these things from day one.
Our solemn vow to you, be good, be brief, be gone.
You might find yourself changing your opinion on things you've never even thought twice about. That really sets America apart.
You are not ready for season 2. This is Reloaded.
My life, tale, and my truth has been to fight socialism.
Are you familiar with structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.